Hey, Larry, good evening.
Evening.
Good evening. I just want you and your listeners to know that I worked in New York City back in the 80s, beginning of the 80s all the way to like 91. And I used to listen to the late and great Bob Grant. And I heard your magnificent voice on the Bob Grant show. I don't know when, but it had to be in the 80s because I left New York in 91. And you are a magnificent talk show host as well as a human. But I wanted to ask you, would you ever believe that a Democrat from New York back in the 80s would get more Republican votes than probably any president known? If I told you that we're going to have a Democrat from New York run for president someday and get all these Republican votes to straighten this country out, would you have believed that?
Well, all I can say is this. The late, great Ronald Reagan was a Democrat. He was a Hollywood leader of the union, and he was a Democrat. And in his last election, 1984, he won 49 states. Can you imagine any president winning 49 states? He did. The only one he lost was Minnesota. That was the state from his opponent, Walter Mondale. And he lost that by a few thousand votes. This guy almost swept the entire country. Of course, he didn't win Washington, D.C., but 49-1. And his first election, 1980, was also a landslide. And again, he used to be a Democrat. So the late, great, not the late, great, he's still with us, thank God, Thomas Sowell. Not only was he a left-wing guy, he was a Marxist, self-described Marxist, and was still a Marxist when he went to University of Chicago Business School, School of Economics, where he studied under people like Milton Friedman, was still a Marxist. And he became somebody much more thoughtful and began to realize he was wrong when he got a job with the Department of Labor. And his job was to study the effects of the minimum wage. So he did. And he found out that the minimum wage was hurting the very people that the proponents of the minimum wage assumed that they were helping. So he went back and reported all this. He found out the people at the Department of Labor didn't care. Their job was to administer the program, not to rethink the program, not to evaluate whether or not they should have the program, but simply to implement the program and keep their jobs. And that, he said, started his journey towards rethinking the real-world effect of some of the left-wing views he one time had. So not uncommon for people to make a journey from being a liberal to a conservative. Every now and then you find people do it the other way around, but generally speaking, when there's this evolution, it's from people who are soft-headed. What's the usual line? If you're under 30 and you're not a liberal, you're cold and callous. And if you're over 30 and you're still a liberal, you're an idiot. Yeah. If you're under 30 and you're not a liberal, you have no heart. If you're over 30 and you're still a liberal, you have no brain. Something to that effect. And I'm not quite sure who said it. I think it's been attributed to a bunch of different people, but I'm not sure who said it. I just don't think Jussie Smollett said it, but I could be wrong. Thanks for watching these clips from The Larry Elder Show. If you enjoyed this content, be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss a moment. More thought-provoking discussions are just a click away, so stay tuned, and we'll see you in the next one.